Who is the creepiest teacher you've ever had? Story number 1. He got caught trying to solicit sex from a 15-year-old girl online. The girl was actually an undercover cop in Louisiana. He taught sophomore level history, was the head coach for our softball team, and had a daughter who was about 14 at the time. I still get creeped out when I think of how friendly he was with the way he'd always smile at me and my friends.
Holy cow.
Can I get you a glass of milk to go along with those cookies?
Story number 2. Had a creepy music teacher who used to wear weird ties. Anyway, I could never put my finger on what was so creepy about him, until it turned out that he was a massive pedophile who had something like 17,000 indecent images of children on his computer.
FBI, open up!
Story number 3. We had a science teacher. He was around 50 and a bit silly, but he didn't straight away come across as a weirdo. He used to like pretty much every girl in the school, but all the boys were sort of indifferent to him. He preferred to help the girls. I was in his class for registration, and for some reason, I quickly became his favorite. I had to help with every single science demonstration, and he knew I hated anything that made a loud noise or exploded, and I made a silly noise, which he described as funny and once even called cute. He always had his hands on my wrist/forearms, as if I was unable to use a spoon, and he always put his head right by my ear, which was a little bit creepy. I think the creepiest thing was that one day I wore a skirt and tights in, the first warm day after the winter, and in registration, he looked at me as I walked in and looked down at my legs before saying, "Oh, we haven't seen those in a while." Story number 4. In high school for Halloween week, I wore a pink and white Japanese schoolgirl outfit over jeans and a tank top. While I was typing up a paper in the computer lab, my US history teacher strolls in, gets my attention, and says, "Well, that's a very cute costume you have on." And I didn't know what to say except for thanks. And he held eye contact and a smirk a bit longer than what I found comfortable. Story number 5. Guy teacher said that if dudes shave their pubes and grow them out a little, and if a girl is freshly shaved and they have sex, then the girl will get a rash. Said it was from personal experience. Then he laughed like a creep. It was the 7th grade. Story number 6. Mr. Tamka used to slap the young boys' butts. He also hit them and even locked one in a closet frequently. I witnessed him spike a volleyball into a boy's genitals and choke another against the wall. I tried to make a complaint, but none of the boys wanted to tell the people in authority what happened. So with no one to help substantiate my claims, my mom could do nothing to stop it. I did try my best though. Story number 7. I had a creepy music teacher as well. Everyone would get scared or uncomfortable around him because he allegedly poked up our skirts and made noises. I went to an all-girls school. Rumor has it that once a girl had some of her bra strap showing, and he went over to her and flicked it hard against her skin with his fingers. Not to mention that infamous story of these 2 students finding his computer background to be a picture of naked men. He was also pretty racist and had this annoying voice. Story number 8. Grade 10 or 11, English class. She spent a lot of class flirting with one particular football player. Hint, you shouldn't have your 16-year-old student sitting on your lap for most of the class. Also, didn't that hurt? He was bigger than she was. Story number 9. In middle school, I had this chemistry teacher who would get really close to all the boys, like uncomfortably close, and force his help on assignments, even if we didn't need it. He also sat most of the girls and boys he didn't like in the back, and the boys he did like in the front. Before I left for 9th grade, I heard that he shat and peed himself in class while standing next to a boy, petting his hair.
Come here, man.
So I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
Come on, man.
What's your plan here?
Look, this is not, but they.
Story number 10. I have a teacher who is around 60 years old and is just plain old creepy and pervy. It all started with him walking around during biology classes and randomly stopping to sniff girls' hairs without them noticing. Over time, he dropped some weird innuendos we attributed to him being out of touch with modern humor, but that was changed when he had a sex ed with him. At the end of the second lesson, he gave us homework, which essentially told girls to go finger themselves. Story number 11. Junior year, I was taking my third year in Spanish and not passing. While I was explaining this fact to the male teacher, he was not so subtly rubbing his groin on the corner of his desk while pleading me to stick with it. Replace the class with a study period that afternoon. I'm male, by the way. Story number 12. My PE teacher from high school, he would barge into the girls' locker room unannounced all the time, and it was an open design, no stalls. So he'd just be in the middle of changing in our underwear, and he'd just stand there talking about nothing, so he could stay in there as long as he could. When we would do stretches before class, he'd come around and help the girls by forcing their legs further apart and shit. I remember once he actually lay on top of a girl to push her leg higher up, crotch to crotch. Everyone was like, what the fuck is happening right now? Story number 13. Had a teacher who would eye high school girls. During class, if there's a particular girl he was talking to, he'd put one leg on a chair, lean in, and listen to the girl. Or the way his body was positioned, he leaned his groin towards a girl. It was really messed up. Story number 14. I had a really creepy high school government teacher that would arrange the class so that the best looking girls were seated in the middle of the class, second row, with no one in front of them. He'd sit on top of the desk in front of them and look, or try to anyway, down their blouses. Most of the girls were clearly uncomfortable with his actions. His comb over hair and perv planning makes him the creepiest teacher I've ever had. Story number 15. I never had him, but in 8th grade, I'm pretty sure one of those teachers was a pedo. He would stand over girls' desks and tell them to write when they wore lower cut skirts. The time I got really pissed that he existed was when one of the creepier kids in class jacked off into a condom during class, threw it away during class, and then told the girl next to him he did so. Naturally, she got up and told him. The teacher goes, "Boys will be boys." Fucking what? Story number 16. Not a singular incident, but a long series of events that looking back seriously gives me the creeps now. We had a PE teacher who used to get very touchy-feely with middle school age girls. He used to teach grades 6 to 12, but his creepy behavior only focused on grades 6 and 7, and sometimes 8. He used to spank girls to run a little faster. If there was climbing, he'd give little pushes with his hands only on the girl's ass. He'd burst the changing room doors open without knocking. The setting of the room was such as he would instantly see all the girls changing in the same time. He also played favorites. I think he singled out a few girls out in an abandoned locker room. Everyone knew, but no one ever spoke up. After I spoke with my sister about it, and she told me about how he had one particular girl he liked in her class, I thought of emailing the school and letting them know. He's retired now, and I live very far away in another country, so there's nothing I can do about it. Story number 17. This man around the age of 22-23 came to our secondary school to teach PE, and he was proper Nazi towards the 11-year-old girls. Would stare at them while they worked out and even chatted a few of them up, asking for their number and sending nudes? This eventually got him sacked, but man, I'll never forget the face he made when looking at underage girls. Story number 18. Professor in college, he was the spitting image of Santa Claus and shared way too much about his sex life in the context of parallels to things we were reading in class. I don't want to know about your sex life, sir. Story number 19. In high school, my friends and I had this creepy weird old man for American literature. We read The Scarlet Letter in the class, and there's a part in the book where it explains that the priest dude that the lady, you can tell I totally read the book, right, slept with, felt so guilty about it that he carved an A into his chest, like the A she wears pinned to her clothes. So we're in class discussing it, and my teacher unbuttons his shirt, showing off his long curly old man chest hair, and acts out that he is carving into his own chest. My corner of friends, 14-year-old girls, were definitely traumatized by it. He also would gently rub people's backs until they woke up. Most terrifying moment of my life was when I almost fell asleep in that class. Raised my head just in time to dodge from his touch. Story number 20. I once had a woodshop teacher who someone told me they saw with his hands down his pants, and he dropped a pencil in front of a girl and asked her to pick it up for him. Also, he was bragging to the class about how he used to work at a special school for kids with autism, and they all tried to stalk him. Story number 21. Sixth grade, he was very biased towards girls. He let the girls work while he was talking, but made the guys erase any work they did until he was finished. Let girls out a few minutes early for lunch, recess, etc. Later found out he was convicted for having inappropriate relations with a minor, 15 years old. He had a wife and 2 kids. Story number 22. Had a teacher at my high school that had a fundraiser involving a hug campaign? Later the same year, he was arrested on charges of sleeping with at least 6 students, though the actual number was never confirmed. He pleaded no contest, so there was little time for anyone else to come forward. Last story. My old math and science teacher, he was well known for always being behind the camera at school events, taking thousands of pictures. It wasn't until we had 2 CDs of pictures from a class trip that any of us noticed that he had a thing for very zoomed in pictures of the girls, and very few at all of the boys. I hope he never acted further on his obsession.
You cashed in on